I thought I would share with you some stories and pictures that describe a little bit about what it was like to be with Carolyn for 20 years. Carolyn and I first met on a rainy Santa Monica night in 1996. I was a Hollywood visual effects coordinator, and she was an up-and-coming contemporary art dealer. It was love at first sight for both of us. Carolyn told me about her life running a gallery in Minneapolis and traveling to New York on business. Her burgundy red lips punctuated everything she said with confidence and style. I instantly fell under her spell and was struck with the feeling that I was in the presence of somebody very, very special. Aunt Phyla was the first member of my family to meet Carola. Phyla invited us to dinner at her house in Santa Monica. During the 1960s, Phyla's husband and his partner had developed temperature-resistant ceramic transistors for satellites in the garage. That night, Phyla's butler, Antonio, wore a black tuxedo and served us World War II recipe lamb shank casserole from a silver platter. Carolyn charmed the socks off of Phyla with stories of her work as an art dealer and European travel. On our way out the door, Phyla leaned over to me and said, "Looks like you have a keeper, kid." On the way home, Carolyn and I made out at the end of Santa Monica Pier with other teenage couples doing the same thing. Suddenly, the world felt warm, kind, and confident. That fall, I asked Carolyn to marry me while she was sitting on my lap at Hidden Falls at Grand Teton National Park. I remember feeling incredibly optimistic about the world and our future. Carolyn meticulously planned our wedding and made sure that it was fantastic, even with mojitos, Ross Seafood Bar, and live jazz performers. Arthur Tress photographed us getting ready before guests had arrived. One of Carolyn's best friends told me that day, "Bud, you're going to want to give the keys to Carolyn. She needs to be in charge." It proved to be the best advice that I ever got. Carolyn always knew what she wanted to do and how it should be done best. I had the feeling on my wedding day that I would never have to worry about anything again. Life felt free and full of promise. Whatever we were going to do, it would be the right thing to do, and we would do it together. The year after we were married, we traveled around the year with only our backpacks. Some of the most magical days of our marriage were spent on a budget of $20 a day while hiking around volcanoes and through rainforests and biking through Beijing, visiting ancient temples in Burma and snorkeling on remote islands in Thailand. Carolyn loved the food in Sri Lanka the best. She always liked to combine flavors and tastes and compare them. Carolyn and I had both studied art in college. Her knowledge and passion for art was extraordinary. At the Louvre one afternoon, we spent hours walking through galleries and talking about the history and concepts behind the great art movements. Over the course of our marriage, we visited hundreds of museums and art galleries together. My favorite part of the experience was when we talked about our favorite pieces and compared our thoughts about our favorite artists. On New Year's Eve 2000, we arrived in New York City towing a U-Haul trailer. We had traded our house in Ojai for a one-bedroom apartment on 68th between Columbus and the Park. We immediately caught the worst colds of our lives and spent the first week of our life huddled together next to the radiator. Carolyn opened a Chelsea gallery later with her partner, Elizabeth D. Carolyn allowed me to work as an artist in a Soho warehouse studio on the condition that I made her the most valuable artwork I could imagine. In 2001, I made a sculpture of matchbooks that sold at a New York art gallery for $1,000. Carolyn encouraged me to do better. In 2006, Madsen exploded into our lives. Carolyn loved to hold and kiss him regularly. It goes without saying that Madsen and I were fortunate enough to share the most amazing wife and mother on earth. Life at the Bailey house, with Carolyn in charge, can only be described as awesome. Carolyn took care of every detail, no matter how small, and made sure that it was the best that it could be. Matt and I agree that we both will miss Carolyn's cooking the most. On camping trips, we were always the family with the whole food bag and the bottle of red wine. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner were events. Carolyn's regular favorite meals to cook included Spanish paella, traditional Indian dal, curries, braised beef in Belgian beer with gingerbread. She made that all the time, you guys. Seared scallops with saffron sauce and tomato tapenade, pan-roasted pork, rack of lamb with veal demi-glace sauce, and Vietnamese ginger noodle soup with lemongrass. Yes, Mattson and I do know that we had it really, really good. Oh, on a little side note, we always had a joke that Lila's a vegetarian, and we're inviting her over for pork ribs. Sorry, Lila. Carolyn was the most amazing friend anyone could ever ask for. She encouraged all of us to confront the most difficult parts of our lives head on and without compromise. With Carolyn by my side, I felt as though I could accomplish anything, no matter how difficult. She supported me and would support me through thick and thin. One thing that I most appreciate about Carolyn was something that I will call the Carolyn Glasoe rule. Whatever you do, do it great. She used to say, let's not waste our time doing anything halfway. It's all or nothing. The Carolyn Glasoe rule went for everything in life. The sheets on our bed, food, wine, books, conversation, and friends. Carolyn loved to enjoy simple things in extraordinary places. In 2011, Carolyn somehow found a way for the three of us to stay in a crumbling 150-year-old mansion overlooking Cannes on the night of a fireworks festival. Once we were fortunate enough to spend a week at an artist residency in Cassis, France. One day we hiked into the Calanques west of town, ate ham sandwiches, and swam in the Mediterranean. Carolyn enjoyed spending time with artists, the artists that she worked with. She encouraged all of them to believe in themselves and make personally significant and high-value work. She would constantly say, you will spend the same amount of money making $100 drawings as a $10,000 sculpture. Let's face it, we both need to make money now and here, so make something big. This is Rob Fisher, and he recently was awarded the first commission from the Carolyn GlasoeBailey Foundation to build a sculpture for the... Rob, I hope you can hear Carolyn saying right now, it better be a good one. Our lives changed forever on September 2014 when Carolyn was diagnosed with stage 4 glioblastoma cancer. A simple Google search of glioblastoma informed us that Carolyn's time on Earth was going to be limited to months, not years. At that time, we made a decision as a family to do everything we could to make her last moments on Earth as enjoyable and comfortable as possible. Overnight, we were catapulted to a frontline position on the war on cancer with some of the leading brain cancer doctors at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. The excursion included 3 brain tumor surgeries, regular radiation treatments, MRIs, and Dr. Yu's most promising custom cancer vaccine. Carolyn endured 42 radiation treatments, monthly rounds of chemo, brain steroids, and injections of leading experimental cancer treatments. Our lives with Lila, Dines, and Fliss often felt as though we were characters in a Hallmark movie of the week. We could see the poster clearly. 2 families forced together in one house while a mother and sister dies of cancer. Only this wasn't a movie. This was our real life. We often remarked somebody could win an Academy Award for this. I remember thinking that Cate Blanchett would play good Carolyn. Over the next 14 months, I would often joke with Carolyn that she had woken up in the worst nightmare of her life. She couldn't drive, walk, or talk, and her husband had to manage all of her affairs. Carolyn agreed and informed us all regularly that she would prefer to be back in charge. Even with stage 4 cancer, Carolyn insisted on always having a plan. Between treatments, we were able to take several special family trips to Portland, Nix Cove and Inverness, San Francisco, Mexico, and Lake Tahoe. We were fortunate enough to fulfill Carolyn's last wish and spend an unbelievable week in August on Puget Sound with my cousin Darcy on Ken's boat. Carolyn always loved the water. In September, Carolyn's condition began to rapidly deteriorate. Each day, she would lose increasingly more feeling on the right side of her body. Her balance became affected, and she had difficulty walking. During this time, she would often ask me to call Dr. Rudnick's office and ask him to provide her with a pill or new treatment that would make everything okay again. However, there was little he or the staff at Cedars could do. By early November, an MRI revealed new tumors growing in the center of the brain cavity and at the base of the brain stem. In true Carolyn style, she looked at the doctor and said, "That's it, I'm done." She immediately stopped all her treatments and began hospice care. 2 weeks later, she died in bed next to me. I remember waking up beside her and feeling that an amazing chapter of life had come to an end and a new one was beginning to emerge. Despite going through some of the most difficult times of our lives, the Baileys and Francises bound together in ways that before would have been unimaginable, including being wrapped together in Christmas lights for Christmas. Dines became an unsung hero of the time. Often when Carolyn was sick of me and Carolyn managing her life, Dines would sit patiently with Carolyn and talk with her. Dines also became Mattson's second dad and slept with him at night while Carolyn and I stayed in Los Angeles. Matson and Jonas started Turtle Friend. Many of you here tonight contributed generously. Tonight we are streaming video to a beta version of the the Turtle Friend website. You should see over there. It's an amazing project, and I'm very, very happy with Matson and what we're going to be doing over there in Nicaragua. I achieved a decade-long career milestone for my business, and on November 3rd of this year was awarded my second patent for video content management and display. My professional colleagues bound together and built a working version of Sensation technology. We have recently started working with our first customers and are meeting with investors. Matson and I have started a new life together, and I started volunteering at his Cub Scout pack. Matson was recently awarded a Bobcat and Bear badge. In closing, I propose we raise our glasses in a toast to Carolyn. Carolyn, you are beautiful, intelligent, loving, sophisticated, well-dressed, generous, courageous, and tough as nails all at the same time. We will forever love, miss, and adore you. Thank you, everybody. Please enjoy the party.